call this Siloam Springs Board of Directors for December 20th to order. And if you haven't noticed, Mayor Nation is not with us this evening. She is out of town, but we'll do our best while she is visiting others.
Roll call.
Order and roll call.
Sappington.
Here.
Smiley. Burns.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here. At this time, we will have Director Smiley. She will be leading us in prayer, and then we will have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather together, I ask that you be with us. We thank you for this day and for all the blessings you have provided for our community. Please give us the guidance, the direction, and wisdom to make the best decisions. I pray our hearts are filled with love and compassion as we celebrate this joyous season. Please watch over our community, our nation, and all those who serve and protect us wherever they may be. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would ask at this time if you would please silence all electronic devices. And board, please make sure that we speak into the mics so that we can be heard. At this time, we're going to go with our public input. And this is going to be anything that may be on the consent agenda or anything that is not on the regular agenda. And please come forward and give us your name and your address.
Yes, Arthur Holbert, 20705 Highway 16, Siloam Springs. Just want to give Mr. Mayor and City Board, just want to thank you all and let the public know that we have one day left to register for a Holly Jolly Christmas 3rd Annual Deck the House Decorating Contest. And it's for the whole community, for the city and surrounding areas. There will be awards and prizes for the favorite house, and if people just say, hey, which is their favorite house, that'll also be registered in for prizes too. So it's a collaborative effort with many of the city board, the incoming board, and what have you. It's for our community, and we're excited to do it. Just want to remind everyone, one day left to register tomorrow.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, at this time, I'm going to call up Don Clark as we have a presentation this evening.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Board, Don Clark, Community Development Director. We're here tonight to celebrate and recognize Cindy Rooney on her retirement. I'll give you a little bit of her brief history, not so brief, her time here at the city. Cindy was hired by the city in November 26, 2001. She began her tenure with the city as the administrative assistant for both the city administrator, at the time it was Mark Latham, and the HR director at the time, Nita Horn. Cindy stayed in that administrative role until November of 2004 when she began working for then City Clerk Peggy Woody as an HR assistant. Cindy served as an HR assistant for over 9 years and helped to serve countless employees and colleagues during that time. In February of 2014, Cindy transferred to the Parks and Rec Division, where she worked as an administrative assistant for her remaining 8 years of employment with the city. During her last few months, Cindy was vital in helping with the administrative aspects of the day-to-day operations at Oak Hill Cemetery as well. In addition to her paid positions and invaluable work performed during her tenure, Cindy also served on many committees during the years, including but not limited to the Safety Audit Team, Benefit Review and Selection Committees, along with various programs and events. She was a regular volunteer at the Daddy Daughter Dance, handing out the roses. Even after her retirement, Cindy plans to continue to volunteer and serve with committees, programs, and events as she's able. Cindy, you've been a valuable and dedicated employee, a friend to many, and for folks like me, a tone setter during orientation 15 years ago when I watched the Eagle video. We wish you a wonderful retirement. Enjoy this new chapter of your life, and we pray it's filled with good health, relaxation, and fun. So, Cindy, if you'll come up. Cindy Rooney, I'm presenting you this certificate on behalf of the City of Siloam Springs for your 21 years of dedicated service. Congratulations.
I would like to say that it has been my privilege
You step to
to
the mic.
work with so many wonderful and innovative people. The employees of the City of Siloam Springs are top-notch, and I am so proud to have been a part of that team and to see through many projects and developments. So, well, thank you all so much.
Go back that way so Philip can give you that $20 for that. No.
I did.
Cindy,
Again, thank you.
I was on the
Thank you,
board when
Cindy.
you first came, and everybody was always very impressed with your service for many, many years. So thank you for
so much.
staying the many years you have. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Board.
We'll now go to our consent agenda. And we have two items this evening. Item A, our regular meeting minutes for December 6, 2022. And B, Resolution 75-22, setting the hearing date for easement vacation, 500 block of Highway 412 West. And we've had time for public input. Is there anything on the board's pleasure with this? If not,
Mayor,
yes.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, I will make a motion, we adopt the consent agenda.
So moved?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
Next up, we have appointments. And we're going to call on Travis Cheney this evening to start this off for us concerning the Parks Advisory Board.
Mr. Vice Mayor, Board, Travis Cheney, Parks and Recreation Manager. Administrative policy number ADM 102 sets the guidelines for selecting and appointing Parks Advisory Board members. In August, our staff published the notice of vacancy to newspaper, city website, and have held those positions in that advertisement open. It wasn't until December 9th that we received enough applications to make a selection for the 5 vacant seats. That information was sent to the mayor and reviewed by the city administrator, and the recommendations that are being made this evening are for this board to appoint Marita Smith, Jennifer Heathcote, Forrest Tharp, and Brent Barracliff to serve their first 3-year terms on the Parks Advisory Board. We also recommend that you appoint Stanley Church to serve his second consecutive 3-year term on the Parks Advisory Board. If you have any questions, I'm willing to take questions.
All right. Any questions from the board? And the public? All right, and Philip, are we voting on this tonight?
Yes, sir. You
Okay, so this needs to have a roll call then.
needs to have a roll call. You mentioned public, but you might want to make it clear that if there's any comments of the public, you would accept those.
All right, thank you. Do we have any comments from the public concerning the Parks Advisory Board recommendations? All right, then do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes. Director Hunt.
I move that we accept the recommendation from Parks and Recreation for these board members.
Second?
We have a second. Roll call.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Next up, we're going to be turning this over to Philip Patterson for the Oak Hill Cemetery Sexton.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and Board. City Code requires that the City Board confirmed the administrator's appointment of a cemetery sexton. The sexton is responsible for the caring, the protecting, and the maintenance of the cemetery grounds, is responsible for supervising repairs and construction of improvements, and preserving the cemetery as a site for burial, and acting as the city's agent in the location of cemetery lots that are for sale to the public. In 2017, the then current sexton was promoted to the Parks and Rec supervisor position, and the cemetery division was incorporated into the Parks and Rec division. Earlier this year, the sexton, the supervisor of Parks and Rec, resigned his position, and a new supervisor was hired in July. Shannon Holm has been with the city since the beginning of 2017. He's been the groundskeeper. He's performed all the duties of the cemetery technician. And since the departure of the Parks and Rec manager in March of this year, Shannon has been acting cemetery sexton. So in the 2023 budget, we included the money for the sexton and the position, and I am asking that you approve and confirm my appointment of Shannon Holm as cemetery sexton. Shannon is here tonight. If you don't mind, Shannon, just stand up and say hello. But if you have any questions for him or for myself, we're happy to answer that.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions, comments, or such from the audience? Okay, I'll turn this over to the board. Any comments?
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we confirm the appointment of Shannon Holm as the Oak Hill Cemetery sexton.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Next, we go to contracts and approvals. Item E, contract, Public Works Department, Street Division, Lake Francis Street Rebuild, TriStar Contractors LLC in the amount of $2,169,550.55. Kevin Moore, if you please present.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, members of the board, Kevin Moore, City Engineer. Tonight for your consideration is the contract for Lake Francis Street Rebuild with TriStar Contractors. This project involves a water main relocation, a street rebuild with widening, curb and gutter, sidewalk, and drainage improvements through the length of Lake Francis Street from the Eliana Chacon Memorial Park to the railroad right-of-way. Staff received 2 bids on December 2nd from TriStar, one from TriStar Contractors and one from Ground Zero Construction, and we budgeted $2.6 million for this project. This is a 270-day contract plus weather delays as necessary. After reaching out to their suppliers, the contractor expects to be able to begin construction in March. We'll be widening the street from 21 feet currently to 27 feet measured from back of curb to back of curb. We're proposing a 5-foot sidewalk along the south side of Lake Francis from the Memorial Park to just west of the railroad right-of-way, and then a 10-foot side path along the north side of Lake Francis from Washington Street to Aslan Court. There will be a lighted pedestrian crosswalk at Aslan. And then one of the goals we had for this project was to smooth out and separate the S-curve west of the railroad tracks. The water main begins west of Christie Lane and will stay along the north side of the road. And then our 5-foot sidewalk will begin with the park with a 10-foot sidewalk on Washington Street. There is a 5-foot portion of sidewalk shown along Washington Street here. That is under design right now through a TAP project, and that will have a lighted pedestrian crossing as well. Through the middle of the site, you can see where we've relocated the street from its current position north. this new alignment meets the master street plan design guidelines. And then we will have our lighted pedestrian crossing here to the west side of Aslan. And then that is where the 10-foot side path will stop, and the 5-foot side path, or the 5-foot sidewalk, will continue on the south side of Lake Francis until we get to about 50 feet off of the railroad right-of-way, where we'll neck back down to that crossing width. This is an overview of the site. Staff is recommending approval of the contract with TriStar Contractors in the amount of $2,169,550.55, and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Do we have any comments from the public? Please give us your name and address.
Scott Jones, 2008 South Washington Street. So you mentioned the sidewalk on Washington. How far down Washington will that extend in this phase? Is it just that first block?
Sorry, to be clear, the sidewalk on Washington Street is part of a separate project, and that will go all the way to Highway 412. So there's grant money from the state for that project, and so it's currently under state review.
Can I just say thank you in advance? We live on Washington Street. We walk Washington Street regularly, take our lives into our hands pretty much every day walking Washington Street. So it will be very nice to have a sidewalk. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Questions, comments, board?
Mr. Mayor, I don't know what we're supposed to call you tonight. I do have a question for you. Did we get any grants for the sidewalks on this street?
That's a good question. So originally, we had pursued a grant for this portion as well, along with the Washington Street portion. But due to the rebuild of the street and some of the things we needed to do with drainage and whatnot, we decided to pull that and separate those two. So we are doing the sidewalk on our own along Lake Francis, and then Washington is solely under the grant.
I think this is a long overdue project. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Director Allen.
Kevin, so you're saying even though it's in this, it's showing sidewalks, the sidewalks will not be part of this down Lake Francis?
Sorry. So everything shown along Lake Francis is part of this job. The Washington Street portion.
Yeah.
So, and I apologize for the confusion.
But on the north side of Lake Francis, there's a sidewalk, right?
Yes, we have a 10-foot side path starting here at Washington Street, and that is a part of this job.
So let me ask you, this project, is it widening the street at all, or is it just a new overlay of the street, or?
It is a partial widening. So the current street is between 21 and 22 feet in width, and will now be 27 feet back at curb to back at curb, which is about 24 feet of actual asphalt.
Through the whole thing, or just part of it? All.
Through the whole thing except for the 50-foot transition on either end.
But 24?
Yes, 24 feet of asphalt and then curb and gutter.
That's excellent. Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, Director Sappington.
Kevin, how is that going to affect the house with the swimming pool on the corner of Washington and Lake Francis into the subdivision?
Is that here on the northwest corner or on the
right
northeast
down
corner?
by the
I
park.
apologize.
If you go just east from the park and turn
okay.
south on Washington.
Yes. So part of why the side path is on the north side instead is because those fences are so close to the road. And so that's why we're doing just the 5-foot sidewalk on that south side. So they'll keep their fence essentially as it is, and then we'll be pursuing temporary construction easements with all these owners.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor,
Yes, Director Ressler.
I have another question, sorry. How long do you think this project's gonna last?
The contract is for 270 days. With weather days, we'll realistically be looking at 11 months or so, probably.
All right. With that, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the contract, Public Works Department, Street Division, Lake Francis Street Rebuild, TriStar Contractors LLC, the amount of $2,169,550.55. Roll call.
Bisler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we have contract, Public Works Department, Wastewater Division, Engineering Design for the Maxwell Street Sewer Line Replacement, McClelland Engineering Consultants Incorporated, $100,000. Steve Gorsick.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the board. Steve Gorsick, Public Works Director. The recommendation for approval of the engineering design for the Maxwell Street Sewer is based on a comprehensive collection system study that was done in 2019. We had an engineer look at the entire city to see what our sewer system was like, first of all, and then second, whether we were going to have enough capacity with all the development that's been taking place. As far as capacity, yeah, we're good, but there were a lot of recommendations as far as needed improvements, and one of those was this stretch of Maxwell Street that will go from Flint Place north to Main Street. And I'm going to bring up a couple slides to help me illustrate a little bit better what we're doing here. Okay. For starters, the sewer line on Maxwell Street, where it ends at Main, is the end of sewer basin number 7. So this whole area right through here is basin 7. There are 5 lift stations in that basin. They go and the basin goes as far south as Camp Siloam. There are 2 lift stations down there. One actually in the camp. There's another lift station just south of Country Acres. There's another lift station over here. That's Dayspring. South Mount Olive at the city limits, and Mallory Woods. So collectively, this all goes to the line that goes down Maxwell near the amphitheater and ends at Main Street. Collectively, for Basin 7, there's 116,000 gallons of wastewater that flows into that line each day. And the problem we're having is with this particular section, particularly from Jefferson down to Main Street in this area here, there's a pinch point. The line size goes from, as you go down, and you might be able to see that there, on Washington, the line is 15-inch, but then once it gets to Jefferson, it changes sizes several times. You can see a 12 over here, 8-inch line, 12-inch. It's all different sizes. So the recommendation in the study was to eliminate the 2 lines that run down Maxwell. One would be going to Main. The other one, people probably have noticed on the pedestrian bridge at the park, there's a sewer line that runs underneath it. That line would go away, and we would replace the whole thing with one 18-inch sewer line from Flint Place, where it goes from 15 inch, it'll jump to an 18 and then go all the way down. I'm going to use both fingers there. It goes all the way down to Main Street and will end in a 21 inch line. And that line runs through downtown and winds up going to the wastewater plant. So McClelland Engineering was chosen based on RFQ that was sent out. The deadline was the end of September, and we went through the usual selection process, and we did an RFQ because there is engineering involved, a lot of engineering involved. And there's $500,000 that was budgeted for this project. That was intended to be design and construction, but as I talked about 2 weeks ago, construction prices and everything else have escalated. I mean, even eggs are $3 a dozen now. So what we plan on doing is getting the design done, and if we don't have the remaining funds or are not able to acquire the remaining funds to do the construction, then we'll just simply budget for it in 2024. And the plans will be approved by the Department of Health, and they're good for a year, so we can start in 24 if need be. So I recommend that we hire McClelland Engineering Consultants to do the design for the Maxwell Street sewer for the amount of $100,000, and staff is available for any questions. Thank you and Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Steve. Any comments from our public? All right. Board, any questions, comments?
Mr. Vice Mayor, have we used McClelland before?
A long time ago, they did some work at our wastewater plant. I think they even did, if I'm not mistaken, they did the reservoirs at the water plant too.
All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the contract, Public Works Department, Wastewater Division, Engineering Design for the Maxwell Street Sewer Line Replacement, McClelland Engineering Consultants Incorporated for $100,000?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Sappington,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Burns,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Okay. Next is item G, and we're going to deal with Resolution 70-22, Renewal of Downtown Economic Development Service Agreement, Main Street, Siloam Springs, and this deals with the mayor's veto. Being such, I'm going to read a memorandum, or a good portion of it, from our mayor concerning this. On December 6th, 2022, the City Board of Directors considered Resolution 70-22, a measure to renew the city's contract with Main Street, Siloam Springs for the year 2023. A majority of the directors present voted in favor of the agreement, but there were 2 who were absent and 2 that had dissenting votes, which prevented the measure from obtaining the 4 votes necessary to pass the resolution. Since December the 6th, I have received feedback regarding this decision, overwhelmingly expressing the opinion that this outcome is not reflective of the will or desire of the majority of Siloam Springs residents. I concur in this opinion and further note that a matter as significant as termination of the city's long-standing relationship with Main Street, Siloam Springs merits an opportunity for all board members to express their opinions and for the citizens to be heard. If the prospect of such action was never raised by any board member prior to the December 6th meeting, either when considering Main Street, Siloam Springs quarterly reports or in the 2023 budget review process. Therefore, is granted to the mayor by the board's adopted rules and by state statute, I hereby veto the board's decision rejecting passage of Resolution 70-22. And as such, the resolution is hereby approved. And I'm going to take a little bit of mayoral lateral movement here. I have something that I would like to read this evening, and I'm going to read it so that I will stay on subject and I will be direct and to the point. But first of all, I would like to ask Ms. Stacy Morris to come to the podium. And anyone that she would like to have come with her is welcome as well. And Stacy, I will be speaking to you. Some of this is not directly at you, but as the city and community of Siloam Springs. And I need to take care of a few things here. The primary goal for the city of Siloam Springs is for the safety and our well-being. That safety can come in many forms, such as the water we drink, the electricity that we utilize. Our police force gives us that safety, the fire department. But most of all, it's our citizens that we have to protect and take care of their well-being. And that includes in the board meetings. In our last meeting, I felt that you were publicly shamed and humiliated. And I sat right here and I did nothing except leave you alone. I apologize for that, and I ask your forgiveness. I'm ashamed of my lack of action and the treatment of you and Main Street. Your dignity and self-worth are worth standing up and fighting for. You have value. I may not always prevail, but I will from now on stand in the gap for your safety and your well-being. You are not alone. I want to give you a word of exhortation. Main Street, Siloam Springs, you have the opportunity to breathe life and to come alongside. The responsibility you hold and your influence on our community are valuable. We must stand ready to help one another. You hold the very heart of Siloam Springs, the lifeblood, in your hand. But it's not yours to keep, but it's yours to share. And as you shine, our community shines. This is your non-negotiable duty. And do we weaken the heart to strengthen the rest of the body? We do not. We won't see victory on our own. We've got to work together and come alongside and unite. The strength of unity is legendary. Let's utilize it. I'd like to give our community an admonition. Why was it decided we had to be for or against downtown? Who decided this, and why are we following this divisive strain? We need a wonderful downtown to complement the rest of our community. We are Siloam Springs. We are not one and then another. We are telling and preserving a living, breathing story. But I have a quick fix. Let's stop it. Let us tell a story of unity. Let's do it with excellence. Unity says, I will come alongside you and together we will make it better. Unity cannot be bought or be put into a budget. It comes from within. It is given. It's not taken. In conclusion, did we get lost in the valley in the shadow of pandemic? Or do we go through only to lose ourselves in mediocrity and complacency? I choose life and the option to rise above. Let us embrace and yoke our strengths among the various groups of this city. And may our redundancies have relevance and impact. We are at critical juncture. May we choose wisely. Thank you all. I am now going to open this up for public input. And I'm going to ask that we do have 3 minutes per individual. But if we have people going to be saying the same thing I would just ask that if you wish to come up, that you could maybe say ditto, or you could say, I agree. And if you have something completely different or opposite to say, then you will have 3 minutes. And Stacy, you're welcome to take a seat for the moment.
Or she can speak.
Or if you wish to speak at this time.
I just want to say thank you, Vice Mayor Carroll, and forgiveness is given.
Thank you. And if we have someone who does wish to speak, just give us your name, address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, before you recognize anyone, I'd like to read the rules of the board regarding public comments.
For right now, we'll hold off on that. We'll see what we have for public comment, and then we'll open it up to the directors. But thank you, though.
The public comments need to be recognized as to how public comments are directed. Do you wish to read
Thank you.
section D2?
Thank you, David. You're not recognized at this moment. Thank you. Do we have public input? Okay. And if not, then we do have public input.
You have.
If you give us your name,
Yes.
address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I wrote it down, so I'll stay under 3. My name is Martha Londigan. I reside at 1505 West 9th Street in Grove, Oklahoma. For the past 3.5 years, I've been employed as a small business consultant with the Startup Junkie Foundation of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And for 7 of the last 10 years, I have worked with Main Street Siloam Springs and with the Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce with over 200 businesses in Siloam Springs. I am here today to state that this board should continually fund the Proven Economic Success and Resource Association of Main Street Siloam Springs. Every town in Northwest Arkansas, a major city, has a Chamber of Commerce and a downtown association with it. Chambers of Commerces are 501c6 entities, not 501c3s. Thus, the ability to administer grants and improve districts is very different for these. As a person who has lived in Northwest Arkansas her entire life, I want everyone to please remember a time in the 80s and 90s when every downtown in Northwest Arkansas was decrepit and half abandoned. Our city councils, our chambers of commerce, our major corporations were all in place. It was when we began the rise of downtown associations that we began to see our downtowns thrive again, come back to life, to have our buildings renewed. To pull back now, funding as a city for Siloam Springs, a place where my family has owned 7 businesses since 1901, is a step backward. Take a note from what has just recently happened in Fayetteville. They let their downtown association die out 13 years ago. They just announced this year that they're funneling $100,000 a year back into hiring a downtown development person and having a separate division again. Downtown districts in Northwest Arkansas the past 35 years have proven that they regenerate the downtowns, and so grows the towns. And that is why we have become one of the top 10 places in the world in the United States to live, is because of these downtowns. Lastly, please realize that scores of business owners and individuals have invested in this downtown with the thought that this city and Main Street was going to continue to support them. So please do not go backward in supporting this economic development that is proven for the last 35 years to rejuvenate this town. So goes the downtown, so goes the town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Drake, and I just want to say ditto. Martha, thank you so much for what you said. Ron Drake, as you all know, passed away about 1.5 years ago, and he had a heart for this community and revitalized 17 buildings, worked on Main Street for years and years. He would be the first person up here to want to say that you do have to partner with the city. He wrote in his book on chapter 10, Working with the City. So I'm just here to represent him on his behalf, saying that we need you guys, we need partnership, we need unity, like you said, Reed, and ditto for everything.
And Christina, can we have your address, please?
It is 16001 Kauai Court, Siloam Springs.
If we may have your name and address, please.
Hello, Victoria Sandoval, 611 North Gunter. I am the current board director for Main Street Siloam Springs, and I just want to take a few minutes, less than a minute, I'll make it quick, to voice my support of the city contract with Main Street. I moved to Siloam Springs in 2014, and coming from a larger city, was a little bit hesitant to move to such a small community, but quickly found my community and my people in downtown. I have been a volunteer with Main Street since 2018 and on the board since 2019. And am continually amazed in what we've been able to provide the city as a whole and with our budget and with our resources. A city is not just made up of its businesses and its sales tax it provides. Our city is made up of its downtown. I think we need to recognize that when people look at Siloam or when they look at choosing a place to live, they're not looking at which town has the nicest gas station on the major highway or which fancy restaurant they have, but they're looking at which city has the best community for me and my family. And I think any city that someone would want to choose to raise their family is going to be a city with a strong downtown. And so just want to voice my support for Main Street and continuing our relationship with the city because it's very long-standing and it's had a great run, and I would hate to see it dissolve so quickly. Thank you for your time, directors.
Thank you.
Katie Renard, 702 East Delaware, Siloam Springs, Arkansas. I just want to say to all of you that I appreciate the efforts that you put into doing your work here. And it's my hope that when someone talks to you and says, I don't understand why an organization just does this, that you're informed of what they do so that you can explain it. We rely on you as a conduit. People come to you with questions, and if you don't know when you're funding an organization what that answer is, then that creates more concern and more division. This is a wonderful place, and as someone who is in real estate, when I bring people in from out of town, before I show them a single house, I show them downtown. And they are always just amazed by that. And so I encourage you in the work you do, and Marla, I thank you for the work you have been doing. And all of you, I appreciate you, but please consider renewing this contract and staying together as a community. Don't forget how far we've come.
Thank you.
My name is Tyler, this is low. My name is Tyler Carroll, 102 South Carl. First, an apology. I came tonight in a spirit of solidarity with my friends from Main Street. I did not come in a spirit of unity as instructed by Director Carroll, and I'm very sorry for that. It led to me saying something in the parking lot and then me getting yelled at by a director and then me yelling something nice not on the way in. And Director Allen, I do apologize to you publicly for that. What I am here to say is my business wouldn't be here in Siloam Springs without Main Street. We started out on the West Coast about 13 years ago. We're having a great time out there, living in the sunshine, not looking forward to the cold weather here this next week, right? Yeah. Got a little spoiled. But we were shipping a lot of product back here to friends that had small businesses and stuff. Main Street. I got to be friends with the Main Street folks at the time, and they said, hey, would you consider opening a branch of your company here? We see your stuff everywhere. And I said, well, we'd like to. We got family there. I'd like to get my kids close to their grandparents again. And Main Street helped us get our first lease in downtown. And then Main Street helped form the relationships to where I was actually able to purchase my first building from Mr. Ron Drake and Christina Drake. And since then, we've taken on the heart to help revitalize downtown. Main Street has been there with us the entire time. Always, what do you need? How can we help? What do you need? How can we help? Happily. I ask a million questions. They probably get tired of all my questions. But with their help, we've been able to pour more into downtown, and I don't think we would be here today where we are in our town. We're adding jobs in our company every single day, almost 24 people working in a little t-shirt shop. I feel like that's not too bad, and I give Main Street a whole lot of credit for that.
Thank you.
Stacy Osherman, and I live at 210 East Ashley, right there.
I am not a business owner. I just live in downtown Siloam. But I have lived in this area. Yes, ma'am. Sir.
Can you
Oh, I'm so sorry. How's that? Is that better? Okay. Did you get where I live and all that? Okay. I'm not a business owner. I just live in downtown. And I get to enjoy, I can walk out my back alley and watch the parades, and I walk to Dogwood Festival. I walk to Homegrown. I don't have to park and fight all that. And as much as sometimes those things are stressful because of all the people and we live downtown, we enjoy it. And those things are brought to us by Main Street, well, at least the Homegrown Festival. We moved into this kind of area over 20 years ago. And when we would come into Siloam, we lived in Little Kansas at Cookson Hills, and we would drive into Siloam with our kids. There was nothing to do. There was nothing here. The shops downtown were dead. There was nothing there to do. We moved into Siloam over 15 years ago, and that was just when it was starting to come alive downtown. When we had the opportunity to move back to the East Coast, because that's where we're from, my family was shocked that we weren't going to come back. Now my family comes here, and they sit down at Cafe on Broadway, and they attend the festivals, and they say, "We know why you live here." They live in Central Florida. And when I tell them I live in a place that's like living on Main Street Disney, with the lights and the parades and the music, they're like, "Really?" And they come out here and they're like, "You're right. We would live here if we could." And a lot of that is due to Main Street. My daughter is a business owner. If you take this funding away, she's been in business for just a little over a year. She'll have to close her doors because some of the most blood supply that she gets, unfortunately, isn't from the community of Siloam. I would love it if the people of Siloam were the ones that bought her pottery. But it's people from the surrounding areas that come into this area that help keep her alive, that help keep her little pottery business alive. She's 23 years old and chose here to open a pottery business. She could have gone to Bentonville and made a killing. Her mugs are over in that corridor selling for $55 a mug. She could have gone there, and she stayed here. But part of the reason she can stay here is because of Main Street and because of things like Homegrown. That's one of the best times for her business is Homegrown. Is it 3 minutes?
If you can wrap it up, please.
Absolutely. I'm just saying, please don't defund them. Please don't defund them.
Thank you.
Kelsey Howard, 312 South College Street. I'd just like to say how thrilled I am to see how packed this room is and the civic engagement and interest. And I feel such a sense of personal pride in Main Street as a resident living so close to the downtown that I can walk there. And I've heard city directors say that downtown is the heartbeat of Siloam Springs. And that is very much reflected in the city's own website. I was just today looking at the city's website. There's a section of why Siloam. And it's like, why put your business here? Why live in Siloam Springs, not move back to the East Coast? And I kind of want to read it. In the Why Siloam section, it says, old-time traditions meet thriving economic growth within our historic and vibrant downtown, radiating out to our city limits, a combination that has resulted in Siloam Springs being recognized as one of the best small towns in America by the Smithsonian Magazine. We all know this. We all know that it's unity, it's the combination. And, if the city recognizes this, and I think about the mission of Main Street Siloam Springs, which leads the downtown effort to preserve our historic district, support local business, and develop a vibrant gathering space for our community. What a beautiful partnership. that we have dovetailing interests to do these things. And, you know, it's not just this singular program in Main Street of Siloam Springs. It is that umbrella that we are, like, the Main Street, Siloam Springs is held accountable by Main Street, Arkansas, which is held accountable by the national program. It is an accredited and very thorough process of support on a national level. So I just hope that we see today that the commitment remains to not just Main Street, Siloam Springs, but to a program that spans the United States, recognized as something that works to keep the heartbeats of our downtown, of the heartbeats of our cities alive. So, thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Shorin Norbach, and I live in 1555 Villa View Drive. And I just want to say thank God for the blessings that has been bestowed upon Siloam Springs. And the Lord has had everything to do with it, and God has been good to us. And I just want to pray a blessing that what we do with our Siloam Springs and the funds and whatever is provided would glorify God and would promote His standards, biblical standards in our city, and would bless our city. The hands of God be open to continue to bless Siloam Springs, and we will not disappoint God in the decisions we make, in all the funding and all the ways we spend it. And in Jesus' name, I just pray that over our Siloam Springs and over the board of directors. And I just say, let us please God, and may God bless what blesses Him, and may God curse what does not bless Him, done in Siloam Springs or any city or in our country. In Jesus' name, bless you.
Thank you. All right, if that is all, then we will open this up to the board. Director Allen.
Sure.
Had something to say?
It's a moot point now. It had to
Okay.
do with public comment.
Okay. Any other questions or comments of the board?
Vice Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just thank everybody for coming up here. This is Ward 2. That is the historical district. This is the people I've represented the past 2 terms. And I know Ken is here tonight, and he's hearing that, and he will carry that torch forward. And it is an exciting time to be in Siloam. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Mr. Smiley.
Main Street was started while I was beginning my board career. I do believe that downtown is the heartbeat of our community. When I first moved here, I remember that one of the unique things that I liked about this city, that drew myself to this city, was the downtown, but it was not the downtown that it is today. There were vacant buildings. We had the post office that added a lot of activity going downtown, but it still was not like it is today. Main Street has worked very hard to make what our downtown is today. I appreciate everything that they have done. We are envied by other Main Street organizations. They come here to see what has happened and what has made our Main Street what it is today. I support downtown. I support Main Street. Without Main Street, I'm not sure how our downtown would be today. I don't want to have to see what it would be without them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, Director Ressler.
I need some clarification from City Attorney Jay. Can you explain to me exactly what we're voting on here? Are we voting on a veto? Or are we voting on, yes, we want this? What are we voting on?
There we go. Yes, you're voting to override the mayor's veto. That is automatically set by statute. Whenever any decision of the board is vetoed, it automatically comes back to the board for reconsideration. And it requires 5 votes to override.
Okay. So I do have some questions from...
There hasn't
They're
been
talking,
a
so that's why I
motion
haven't-
to override.
So I did have some questions from the community. I would like legal advice because you're supposed to help us understand. So I had somebody call me and say, how do you veto? Okay, a veto in Congress or Senate or something is to, for example, a veto stops. So if you look at the definition, if you go back to the Latin, it's to stop a process. So when it was voted no and the motion failed, how do you stop a motion that's already stopped?
Well, because we are a mayor, not a mayor, but a city manager, sorry, let me start over, because we are a city administrator city and not one of the other forms of government. We have a unique statute that applies only to city administrator cities. If mayor council, form of government, there are certain limited items and certain limited scenarios that can be vetoed and gone through that process. In the city manager form of government, the mayor has no veto. In our form of government, our state statute says that the mayor can veto anything. Literally, it says any decision of the board not related to personnel is subject to the mayor's veto. And in this case, I mean, the board had the choice of renewing the contract with Main Street or not renewing the contract with Main Street. And after all the dust was settled, the vote was not to renew, but it still was a choice. It was a decision of the board not to renew, and renewing or not, neither one is less of a decision than the other. And under the plain language of our state statute, it is subject to veto by our mayor.
Okay, you said there's 2. What were the 2? Same again? Same clearly?
I'm sorry.
What were the 2? You said there's 2 laws that is that what you said?
Okay, so there is a state law that applies only to the 3 city administrator cities in Arkansas.
Right.
And it says that any decision of the board is subject to veto.
111, right?
I believe that's correct.
Yes, okay.
Yes, unless it has to do with personnel.
Okay, right. Okay, so that doesn't really answer my question. So I knew the law and even contacted some attorneys, and because I've heard some threats of lawsuits, and this has nothing to do with Main Street. I think it's about legality, and I want to make sure. I was elected by the citizens to make sure we do things legally. And so this has nothing to do with Main Street. I have shopped at Main Street. There's business owners in here that I can look at and say, I've spent lots of money at their shops and I support them. This is not a personal decision, but I will make sure we uphold the law. So I want a clear understanding. What is the definition, the legal definition of veto?
Of
veto.
Of veto.
The legal definition of veto.
I would have to pull that up. I mean, check our
It's
statute.
to stop. I've asked an attorney.
Okay.
So how do you stop an already stopped bill? How do you stop an already stopped agenda item? I want to make sure it doesn't matter to me if Main Street gets the money or not. I want to make sure this city, my citizens, do not pay for a lawsuit that is not necessary. Can you tell me 100% sure, are you willing to risk your job and say that we are not legally doing anything wrong because a veto is to stop something that's in motion, and that bill was not in motion? It was voided out whenever we canceled and said no.
I can't legally say the sun's going to come up tomorrow.
So you want us to put the
100%.
citizens at risk?
Hmm?
You want us to put the citizens at risk?
There's risk with anything that we do.
Oh, I understand that. But if we're trying to circumvent what the definition of a legal veto means.
I understand that is an argument. I'm going again by the plain language of our state statute. It says a decision was made, the mayor vetoed it.
Can veto. What is the definition of a veto then? Go back to the definition of a veto. The legal definition of a veto. Go back to the Latin word veto. You learn that in law.
Okay. So in this case, the mayor's veto would stop the vote of the board from going into effect. And so I don't see a
You
problem
stop
with
a
that.
bill that's in motion. So it sounds like to me there might be some legal ramifications. And I think that we should look into maybe having some other legal advice on this so we don't violate the constitutional rights of the community.
Mr. Vice Mayor, may I ask a question? And it's related to this.
Mhm.
And I appreciate your interest in keeping the city from any kind of legal issues. I think what I heard you say is that it didn't matter to you one way or the other with the funding at this point. My understanding in our last meeting was that one of the ways to get this turned around would be if one of those who didn't vote to continue the funding were to change their minds. There were 3 of us who voted to continue the funding and 2 that did not. So there was the majority at the time, but it wasn't the 4 that was needed. So would you be willing to come back and offer your support at this point?
There's some avenues at this we can look at. First of all, there was a letter sent out by the mayor on the 9th, if you look at the date. We got it as directors on the same day as the community. So there was no chance for discussion. So trying to circumvent is not okay with me. I'm a very direct, honest, open person. I communicate. I try to be as clear as, but I thought that was underhanded. That a memo went out from this mayor on December 9th, and we did not receive it until the public received it. That looks deceitful.
May I speak to that? Mayor had a time frame to make a choice to veto.
Right.
And that veto is required to be referred back to the board at the next regular scheduled meeting.
We are supposed to be notified when she makes the veto.
My understanding of the law was that the mayor had a certain amount of days to veto, and that veto had to be remanded back to this board for consideration to override the mayor's veto, which is what was done.
So my concern isn't that Main Street's out of the picture of what my concern is. My concern is the violation of the rights for the citizens. And I am not a director that's willing to risk and gamble with citizens' tax dollars if there's a potential for a legal issue. And I've heard comments. And I know I'm not the only director.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, Director Burns.
Since being on the board, probably maybe the second, maybe the first largest turnout. So I'm not sure, I don't hear anything. I just know what's real. And when citizens show up here, that's real. So this is really happening. These are really the citizens. These are the people that are invested in downtown. So this is reality. This is real life right now. Second, as we turn this around, so, because I'm going to make a motion, and we're going to vote on this eventually tonight. So, Jay, when this comes up, if we vote yay, we're supporting the mayor on our veto, or is nay shooting the veto down?
It depends on how the motion is framed. If it is the motion to override the mayor's veto, then a yes vote would be to deny the funding for Main Street. A no vote would be in favor of the funding.
The Vice Mayor, I'd make a motion that we support the mayor's veto regarding Main Street funding.
I wasn't done speaking.
That's right. There's
I
a
was
lot
not
of
done
board members
speaking,
that
and you
are,
interrupted me.
a lot of board members are wanting to speak about this, Brian.
I want to finish my. if I
Please do,
could,
Director
please.
Ressler.
Thank you. So it's sad to me, one of the things is, like I said, I shop at businesses downtown. I used to have a store downtown. And I've heard multiple people speak tonight. And one of the things that they kept saying is, if the city loses this funding, there's a potential that their business will go out of business. And what bothers me about that is another citizen brought to my attention some state law that says that the city can contract with a nonprofit to do a service that could not otherwise be provided by the city. But it also goes on to warn, it says on one factor a court might examine would be whether the city receives some consideration for its money. In other words, the nonprofit organization should in fact provide a service that would not exist otherwise. A lot of people, I think, are confused what that money is supposed to be. That money is not to support the downtown businesses. Whether you're for it or against it, please don't get that confused, because that causes an issue. The money is supposed to be to provide a service that the city cannot otherwise provide. I've had a lot of citizens argue there's a lot in that contract that the city could provide if they really wanted to. So, again, I wanted to make those 2 points. So, if any other director wants to speak.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Director Allen.
I don't really think we even know what we're supposed to be voting tonight. And I'll just review the last meeting. I had no idea this thing was going to fail. I didn't know 2 board members missing that it was going to fail. I simply said I can't support it because of the lack of what Main Street's been doing to support and notify people about the last 2 public events, of which the last one was December 3rd. The mayor states, well, none of these things were brought up. How do you bring up when it was literally 3 days before? This is a matter of law for me. I mean, it could be chamber, it could be museum, it could be Boys and Girls Club. It doesn't matter, but we've gotten down to a rule of law here. And what has been written to us, which was supposed to be notified to us within 5 days, and it was not, but nevertheless, it was sent to us, and it is laughable. You cannot negate a non-action. This is not like math or science where you have a negative plus negative equals a positive. This is a matter of state law versus city law. And I didn't hear Jay mention the city law. The mayor has the power to veto any ordinance, resolution, or order, except personnel, adopted by the board of directors. This contract was not adopted by the board of directors. Whose fault is that? Well, I would say it's Mr. Patterson's fault for not having a full board. If he didn't want it on the board, he could have pulled it. I was not aware when I said I can't support this that it was going to fail until Mayor Judy Nation said motion failed. I was shocked when she said that, and I think Reed was too. I was shocked. I was surprised because you said failed. Wow. So I hadn't realized what was happening. I simply said I can't support it, and I voted no. To not have 4 votes, it was a surprise to me. Nevertheless, The way to go about it, of having a reconsideration, did I get one call? Did I get one argument, email, anything from the mayor or the city administrator to reconsider this? No, I did not. Total silence from both those people for 2 weeks. Nothing about would I reconsider this. Instead, we come about with a roundabout way, of which the administrator said in the last meeting he would come up with a way to go around this, to come up with some way to continue to do it. You can't usurp the board's authority. You cannot have a veto of a negative action. The city law states that you can veto something adopted. I can assure you, when I was mayor, I fully knew what could be vetoed and what could not. And when I was on the board, I knew what Moose could veto and what he could not. And I vetoed a few things, and so did Moose. And not one time did I ever think that, well, if a contract is shot down 0 to 7, all 7 board members vote down $1 million contract, but now I believe that contract should have gone through, so I'm going to veto their cancellation of that contract, and now it's in force. That's what this letter says. And if this is allowed to go through, then where does it stop? Where does the power of a mayor in a city administrative form of government get limited? You're now delving into the mayor-council form of government for a mayor's power. The mayor's power in the city administrative form of government has the least amount of power. And there is no way that this holds anything up. I mean, Jay doesn't bring up the city law, but the city law is more constrained. The state law is very broad to say any decision. I honestly don't believe that they meant any non-action. Nevertheless, the board must be notified within 5 days of the veto. We were not. We learned about it when the public learned about it. It's a matter of law for me, and I just say, Jay or City Administrator Patterson, are you both, either one, are you willing to stake your job on this being of legal standing? Are you
Director Allen,
willing to
may I
state
reply?
I'm asking.
May I reply?
Yeah.
I want to ask you 2 questions. Number one, where are you finding that you are required to be notified in 5 days? Because I don't find it in the rules and procedures. I don't find it in state law.
Really?
What I find in the rules and procedures, which is not law, but it's an adopted guideline that's adopted by resolution of the board.
Every year.
Is that within 5 days of the board of directors' vote, the mayor may veto. Before the next board of directors meeting, the mayor shall file in the city clerk's office a written statement of reasons for the veto. At the first board of directors meeting following the veto, the board of directors can override the veto by 2/3 majority vote. I don't find anywhere where there's a requirement to notify the board in 5 days. So I'm confused on that point.
What's your second question?
My second question is asking the city attorney or myself to stake our job on a decision. You have the right to terminate me tomorrow.
Do you believe this is legal city law versus state law?
I believe that state statute does provide a provision for the mayor to veto any decision of the board.
A decision meaning something that was passed by the board.
I don't know. I would let the courts make that determination.
Well, that's where it's going to go.
But the decision of the board's decision was not to guarantee or not to enter into the contract with the Main Street. That was a decision. You made the comment that I would find some other way around it.
You stated that, Mr.
Excuse
Patterson.
me, sir.
You stated it.
I'm not
I have the
interrupting you.
floor. You answered your question.
I asked to be able to reply.
And you did. Thank you. You answered. Thank you very much. I went to 2 state offices and asked the opinion, and they also thought that this was laughable. You cannot negate a non-action. And for anybody to think that you can veto something that wasn't passed or adopted by our city rules and regulations is inviting a lawsuit. There have been people around town that have already talked to attorneys, from what I understand. It's frustrating that this would come to that, but this is a matter of law, and I don't like to be bullied. You cannot have... Laugh all you want. Laugh all you want.
Order. Let's have some order, please.
Laugh all
Thank
you want. That's pretty laughable. The governor of a state and the president of the United States cannot veto action by the legislators that did not pass. They don't have that authority. And the mayor here does not have this authority. And I think you realize that, Mr. Patterson. I think you realize that, Jay. But you realize that you also had a very vague state law that you could stake it on. And here's the question. Who wrote this letter, by the way, from the mayor? Who wrote this?
Mayor wrote it.
Not Jay or not you?
I didn't write it.
Did Jay write it?
I think the mayor asked Jay to have some input, but I didn't write it.
Did Jay write the letter?
No, sir. I think the mayor wrote the letter.
I did not write the letter.
And for the record, if I may,
I didn't give up the floor. I didn't give up the floor.
Director Allen, you're getting into repeating yourself. If you could conclude, or let's move on.
Go right ahead. I give up.
Administrator Patterson, you had a comment.
at the last board meeting, either during the break, during the recess, or after the meeting, those who voted for the measure asked if there was anything that could be done. We talked about the fact that the only way that we knew it that night was for the two who voted in the prevailing side, Director Allen and Director Ressler, to reconsider, to bring it back as a reconsideration. I was also asked if there was, Director Burns asked me something about a 60-day time limit. And I, in the end, said we would look to see if there's any other options, because there were two directors that were missing, and I wasn't 100% sure at that time whether those two directors had any authority to try to bring for the reconsideration, which they do not. After the board meeting, I was asked by board members, was there anything we could do? I was asked by the mayor. I asked Jay, and Jay brought back the provision of that section of state statutes under the city administrator form of government, under the specific regulations related to the mayor, that state that the mayor has veto power of any decision by the board. So, based on that, we informed the mayor. The mayor chose to use that veto power.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Director Smiley.
I was one of those that was not at the meeting. I was out of town. When I watched, and I didn't even watch it live, but when I came back and I watched that meeting and I saw the outcome, I was appalled. And I'm one of those that asked the city administrator, what can we do? I even had a meeting with him. And I don't think that it's right that we have a director that browbeats people into getting an opinion the way you want it.
Into getting my way? My way.
I'm going to stand
My way.
Whose?
I've gotten my way, sure.
You always do, because you browbeat people.
Right.
I think that downtown Main Street deserves to be relooked at. And that's what we're doing by vetoing the mayor's. The mayor's veto is giving a chance to downtown to look at it again. I also got the impression that there were two directors that had been talking to each other, which is a no-no. You want to talk about legal?
Mr. Vice Mayor, may I make a comment that out of respect for each other, we do not clap, we do not cheer. And this is not a sporting event. This is a legal proceeding, and we are being recorded. And if you could just refrain yourself from doing that, I would appreciate it. And I'm listening. I'm learning. I was one of them that wasn't here. But I just ask that we do that out of respect.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, Director Hunt.
First of all, thank you for your statement. I think I appreciated your statement at the beginning of this. I do just want to reiterate that the funding that has been provided for Main Street Siloam is in the form of a contract. And in that contract, Main Street provides services that the city is not able to provide. So it's not a donation, it's not a handout. It's very much like the contract that we have with the museum and with the chamber. Supporting Main Street, in my opinion, through this contractual partnership is not showing a lack of support from any of the other businesses in town or anything else in town. It's a way to work with a specific set of businesses, like the chamber works with all of the businesses in town, like the museum works with their segment of the town. It's all of them working together to make the town what we want to be, and how we want it to be. I understand these legal concerns. I think there's a fairly, well, let me go back to this. You know, at the beginning of the meeting, the president of the chamber, he gave us an update on the house decorating contest. And that house decorating contest came about this year. It was something that the city worked on the first couple of years, and then it came about this year because Director Rissler wanted to keep it alive because the city wasn't going to be able to do it. And Director Allen and a couple of incoming board members and we all met with Main Street, or with the chamber, to make sure that it happened this year. And we talked through that whole process about how nice it was to work as a team to do something for the city. In my opinion, Main Street is one of these organizations that is doing a lot of work for the city. There's a relatively simple solution here, and it would require maybe backing down on an opinion that has been stated. But that is for Director Allen or Director Rissler to reconsider. And maybe the contract would look different. And that was something that was offered at the last meeting. But if one of you could reconsider, we could work with Main Street in a team, as a team member, like we work with the chamber as a team member, like we work with the museum as a team member. This is all about doing what's best for the city and the citizens. That would be a simple solution. It would be a difficult solution because we've heard what you've said and we understand that, but that would keep us out of the legal issues that you're concerned about as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Director Ressler.
First, I want to say thank you. As I look at a lot of the business owners here, like I said, I shop. One of my favorite stores is downtown, and the person in this audience knows who my favorite store is because I shop there a lot. I appreciate, I got one shop owner that emailed me. They didn't put me down. They didn't say anything negative. They asked, why did you vote the way you voted? Not too many people have asked me that. And I said it vaguely at the last meeting, but there was so much conversation, nobody even heard it because it was so vague. But one of the things I explained to this shop owner is that I represent the citizens of my ward first and foremost. Second, I represent the citizens of the city at large. And so I've had a lot of citizens come to me and say, yes, there's shops downtown, but there's shops all over the city of Siloam Springs. And they all bring business to Siloam Springs. The ones that bring the most business is Walmart and Lowe's. I don't think anybody can argue that. We get people from all over Oklahoma, and when they're here, they get a chance to shop downtown. And like I said, I shop downtown a lot. And I appreciate that this shop owner took the time to ask me, why did you vote it down? Why, people can argue, well, your downtown's the heartbeat of your community, but it's not the only part of your community. This isn't personal to me, because if it was, I'd be supporting the shop owners that I shop at personally downtown. And so I can't do this as a personal. This can't be personal for me. And I hear a lot of personal. For us, this is making a decision for all the citizens. So we can stand up here, and we all are going to have citizens come to us with different opinions. My ward doesn't even connect hardly to Ward 2. So, of course, my citizens aren't as connected with downtown. Does that mean downtown's a bad place? No, it doesn't mean downtown's a bad place. And again, I go back to, I mean, what happens if we take it back next year? Do we sit down with, because January, if we bring it back in January, like Mindy's suggestion, what happens when we bring it back, Philip? What happens if I was to say, yes, I will do this? What happens if I was to bring it back?
Here's your rules and procedures. After the decision of any question, any member of the prevailing side may request a reconsideration of any action at the same or the next succeeding meeting, which would be tonight.
Okay.
Provided, however, that a resolution authorizing or related to any contract may be reconsidered at any time before the final execution thereof. So, could be any time. A motion to reconsider requires a simple majority for passage, and after a motion for consideration has been acted upon, no other motion for reconsideration thereafter shall be made without unanimous consent. So, if Director Allen or Director Ressler, you choose to reconsider, you would make a motion for reconsidering, and then that, if that passed by a simple majority vote, then someone, I assume, would make a motion to approve or disapprove the contract with Main Street, and then that would pass or fail with a simple majority vote.
It would be voted on tonight and not next meeting.
I believe so, yes.
Oh, then how do you look at the contract if that's the question?
Well, it says, it provided, however, that a resolution authorizing or related to any contract may be reconsidered at any time before the final execution thereof. So
it could be the next meeting.
It could be done next meeting, yes.
Okay. So, and then I have a question for Jay. So, if a state representative was to take this to the Attorney General, because we know how the Attorney General opinion works, what happens to the contract in the process of it, waiting for the Attorney General opinion? Because once you sign a contract, both of them sign a contract, the contract's legal. So do you hold off while a state representative asks because the Attorney General opinion, or how does that work?
Well, an Attorney General opinion would not be legally binding in any case. I mean, it would be informative.
Right.
But would not affect the validity of any action that was taken by the board.
Right, but it would give guidance to the board.
It would be an item of guidance.
Right. And only a state representative or elected official commissioner can request information from the Attorney General, right?
There's a state statute that specifies who has the ability to ask those questions, yes.
Yeah, I pulled that up. So, sorry. I can't.
One more.
I can't request that I take into consideration talking to the people, the citizens, and the business owners, and then request at the next meeting. It has to be tonight.
Does what have to be tonight?
If I wanted to allow it to be voted on again.
It would, again, ordinarily, it's the same meeting or the next one, but because it's a contract, arguably it could be brought back at a later date. Depending on the outcome of the matter on the floor right now.
Philip, can you answer me one question? Why did the memo go out on the 9th and we not get it until the public got it?
It was required to be on the next meeting.
I understand that, but that still doesn't answer why did a memo go out on the 9th and we did not get it until the next agenda?
The
Why
memo
did we
was,
not get it on the 12th, on the Monday following the Friday that it was
in reading the statutes, it was our opinion that the mayor had until Friday to submit to the city clerk,
Well, she did.
and that it was our requirement to put the item on the next board agenda, which is what we did.
But you also have the authority that you could have let the directors know that veto, so that we could have got legal opinion to protect the citizens.
We didn't believe there was, in my discussion with city attorney, that there was any question. The statute was clear that any decision of the board could be vetoed by the mayor.
So you've never voiced or feared that a legal action could come from this?
A legal action could come from this. A legal
the
action
veto.
can come from anything
No,
that's
not.
done.
I'm asking you a direct question,
I
please.
was asked by Director-elect Ken Wiles, because there's conflicting statutes, conflicting with what's in the rules and procedures. And my response was that if there is any question, how do you address the differences between conflicting statutes? A court of law would have to do that.
So there is a legal, that right there says.
But as Jay said, I mean, the statute is clear under the mayor, under the city administrator form of government. The mayor has the authority to veto any decision by the board.
And if I may respond to that, yes, we did talk about, the various state statutes. We talked about the city code, which Director Allen brought up. And if I could take one exception to what Philip said, I don't believe those statutes are in conflict. They use different language, but they can be read in a complementary manner. And under state law and numerous Arkansas Supreme Court opinions, when different statutes can be read in a harmonious way, that is how you should do it. And yes, they give specific examples of things that the mayor can veto in different scenarios. In no way and in no part do they state that they are a limitation on the more general power of veto that is granted by state statute. And so that's how we read that. And I think there's a very serious question as to whether a city code could even limit a state statutory power that is granted to the mayor. So, throughout this, all this, I've given my opinions to the mayor, to Mr. Patterson, to anybody else that's asked, and those are my opinions as to the status of state law. It could be challenged. A judge could reach a different opinion. That happens all the time.
What happens to the contract in the process?
Until there is some authoritative action or a ruling stating that the board was without authority to take some action, the contract would be in effect.
And when does payment occur?
In accordance to the contract terms.
And what is it?
I think it's quarterly. I'd have to double check. If you give me a minute, I'll double check.
I'm sorry that some of the same citizens contacted, I guess, David, Director Allen and I, but that doesn't lessen their opinion. I had one person contact me that asked me why I voted no, and I think I explained it well, that I do represent my citizens. But then they proceeded to put down my citizens. And I don't sit here and put down Main Street. I don't sit down here and put down the chamber. I do not put down the citizens that disagree with me. And I don't want people putting down the citizens that disagree with the people on this project. We are entitled to our opinion, But to start calling each other names and putting each other down, and I have it in an email, is not appropriate. This is not personal, but we do want to make sure we stay legal. And that's all I care about, is that we stay legal.
Quarterly.
Quarterly. All
Quarterly
right.
payments, quarterly payments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patterson. I'll ask you, Jay, you feel comfortable with how this is proceeding?
It is affirmative.
Yes, sir. As we sit right now, the matter has been vetoed, which means that the contract we have with downtown, or with Main Street, Siloam Springs, is affirmative. And what we're looking at right now is if we are looking to override the veto, or if there is no motion brought or no second, then it would just die, and the Main Street contract would resume, or continue, I should say.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Director Allen.
In terms of how this occurred previously, I think I said it before, that Main Street's the single most griped about thing that I get from citizens around the town, of citizen money going towards. I think it's been frustrating to see the chamber get less money when this chamber provides support for business all over the city. And I don't know what happened to the Boys and Girls Club. The Boys and Girls Club used to get money from the city, and I'm not sure what happened with that contract. That was a service that they provided that the city could not provide. Does Main Street really provide services the city cannot? Maybe they do. But I know that it originated to support downtown businesses with grants and encouraging new business in empty buildings. And as I said at the last meeting, I think it's gotten off track. When I said I don't like to be bullied, I don't like to be told that I'm a liar, as I did twice by the director. And she said that my message got deleted. I didn't delete the message. It's one of those things where when it's proof positive with pictures and you could see it on Facebook, the lack of support, the lack of follow through, and actually have said, that's not true, you're false, you're wrong. I've actually had the Main Street Board acknowledge to me that I was right in what I pointed out, the lack of support and the lack of notice to the public for the downtown trick-or-treat and the Christmas. Maybe with this thing, with the letter from the mayor, the veto, when you get down to it, it says that the outcome is not reflective of the will or desire of the majority of citizens of Siloam Springs. I don't know how the mayor can make that prediction when you have 18,000 people in the city. She goes on to say that with 2 missing board members, she thinks that they should have had their opinion. That doesn't matter. They weren't here, so it does not come into the fact of the matter of law. If somebody wanted us to reconsider, we should have been asked to reconsider. So, to say that it didn't come up beforehand, I'm sorry. It's just a matter of that was the way it fell. And if we're going to give the power to the mayor to negate anything that we approve, no matter what, or if we shoot down a contract, or if we shoot down what staff believes should occur, but the mayor agrees that staff was right, so she's going to veto our not passing a contract or our not passing a resolution that staff wanted to be passed. If we're going to give that power, then maybe we do need to reconsider what has been brought up to me for 20 years of returning to a mayor-council form of government. Maybe we need to consider going back to that if that's the result of what we're doing tonight. giving that kind of power to the mayor council, because that is what the mayor council has. But that's not what we have here. And I heard Jay continue to talk about state law, but when you look at the city law that we approve, yeah, it's not a ordinance, it's a resolution, but it is considered law to us in that we are supposed to abide by it. It says that it is only vetoing of things adopted by the board of directors. And I don't see how you can say that that is complementary to the broad thing of saying a mayor can veto a decision. A decision was not made to move forward with a contract. A decision was not made at all. She said the motion failed. You can't negate a negative and come out with a positive. And you're now, by doing this, allowing the mayor to allocate funds on her own decision to pay this contract or any other future contract. I have no problem if after the first year we want to have a revised contract that they get 25 or 30,000. I have a real problem with the chamber getting less money than Main Street Siloam. But I also get frustrated to hear people believe that we are completely ripping the ripcord out from Main Street like they can't exist anymore. The city money is 1/3 of their budget, only 1/3. It is not preventing them from continuing to operate. When I was on the board, there was one employee, and I was on the board when we had to replace that employee. I'm just saying to act like that it can't operate anymore because of the city. Where was this big group when the museum needed support for the old post office, you know?
Director Allen, let's stay on point here.
I'm done.
Right. At this
Mr.
time,
Vice
we do
Mayor.
have a motion on the floor.
We do?
No, sir.
No, we do
There's
not.
no motion.
Vice Mayor?
Yes, we do. Brad made one.
I made the motion and we continue the conversation. I will stay with that motion, supporting the mayor's veto regarding Resolution 7-22, Renewal of Downtown Economic Development Services Agreement, Main Street, Siloam Springs.
May I ask for clarification? Do we need to vote in favor of that resolution? Or is it a decision that is made that, to Director Allen's point, my understanding based on what Jay said just a few minutes ago was that ultimately the board still does have the decision here if we were to override the veto. If we don't do that, I think the veto stands. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So we don't need to vote in favor of it unless it's...
Vice Mayor?
Yes, Director Burns.
That is why Director Hunt has been reelected for another 4 years. Thank you, Mindy. I love being corrected, and I take it with full stride. Thank you, ma'am.
Want to save a step.
And do we have a motion to override? And if there is not one, then it would fail for the lack of motion. And with no motion,
Oh, yeah, I make a motion to override the veto
okay.
for the
do we have
protection of
a-
the citizens.
Do we have a second?
Oh. No,
The motion would fail due to a lack of a second, which would mean that the economic development agreement is in place. And we'll go to ordinances. Ordinance is letter H. Ordinance 22-28. Second reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R4 to C2, 3000 block of East Highway 412, Ben Rhodes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the board. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. This is the second reading for the rezone. It's a 3,000 block of Highway 412 going from R4 to C2. This is the space that's directly behind the Tractor Supply store there. Since the first reading, we have not received any additional comments from the public, and staff is still remaining supportive of the ordinance, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, and do we have any public? Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Address, please.
My name's Michelle Fendley. I live in Fayetteville. I'm just here for the applicant, and I'm here if you have any questions. Do you need my address?
Need her address or the applicant's address?
Okay.
Thank you. We have seen this for the second reading, and there were no questions or comments or objections. So if we want to go with second and third, but do we have a motion or comment from directors?
So moved. I think this was one they asked us to put on the third reading the first time, but I'm glad we went through the second. So I moved that we put it on the second and third reading.
Okay.
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call.
Sappington.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes. Do I have a?
I need to read the.
You need to read it first. Okay.
Ordinance number 22-28, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, City Zoning Map, rezoning from R4 to C2, property located in the 3,000 block of East Highway 412.
Do we have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Burns.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Sappington.
Yes.
All right, we will go to staff reports, and we're going to speak concerning part-time employees' pay. Christina Petrichis.
Vice Mayor, members of the board, Christina Petrichis, Finance Director. Part-time pay is not something staff addressed in the compensation plan because it's historically been based on minimum wage. However, a department head had multiple employees inquire about this, and after discussion with the city administrator, staff requested that JER HR look at the same companies that they used for the compensation plan and ask them about their part-time pay. So moving part-time pay to $13.25 per hour would provide part-time employees a comparable increase in pay to full-time employees. And staff is looking for guidance from the board on whether the board wishes to amend the compensation minimum for year-round part-time employees, and staff's available for questions.
Thank you. And Philip, on this staff reports, do we open this up to the public as well?
You're welcome to open up to the public, and we would just like to hear comments from the board if you want us to bring back a resolution amending the 2023 budget at the first meeting in January to raise the part-time pay.
Do we have any comments from the public? All right, if none, I will open this up to directors.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Director Rissler.
I did send an email to HR regarding this. I think we should move forward. Most companies do look at their part-time as well as their full-time because the part-time positions are just as important as the full-time. We need them to make the city work, and so I'm in favor.
And if we can, let's just
Okay.
go around here so Philip Patterson has the opinion of the board.
I'm in favor as well, but I do have a question as to why we are excluding the seasonal employees.
It's not required that we exclude them. for year-round part-time employees, so the seasonals, basically the individuals at the pool mostly. It's your summer pool staff.
So it would not include extra mowing staff that we might get for the summer?
We don't have any of those in the budget.
Okay.
It's basically just the Family Aquatic Center. However, that is an option, but that will require the budget to be amended closer to $40,000 rather than $15,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Ditto.
Christina, I have a quick question. Where does contract laborers fall into this? Are we looking to do anything for them? Are we, because a lot of the part-time employment could be contract laborers that we don't pay.
So we typically don't budget for contract labor, and when we do have contract labor, we go at whatever the required rate is to bring them in. So, for example, if we're talking about somebody mowing, it may be different than somebody who's working in an office, depending on what they're doing.
All right, thank you. I go for it.
I'm in favor as well.
I'm in favor.
Same. I would encourage you to keep the seasonal employees as part of the part-time though. Yep.
Okay. He's asking, he was just suggesting that we include seasonal employees.
Were you?
I didn't hear, I can't hear anything.
Were you not saying that you would encourage us to include the seasonal employees? Yes.
Oh.
With the part-time, with the pay raise is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if that was what you, I mean, you brought it up, Mindy brought it, or somebody brought it up about the seasonal employees, but I'm for both of them getting the pay raise.
Thank you.
You have what you need.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Administrators report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and Board. Before I get to my administrator's report, I would like to introduce the board to Megan Whitworth. Megan, would you please stand up? Megan recently relocated to Siloam Springs. She is the recently hired communications manager. Megan comes to us from the great state of Texas, but she was relocating to Northwest Arkansas regardless of whether we were hiring her or not. But her background, Megan's been the director of marketing communications for a small private school since earlier this current year. And she's also been the director of marketing and communications for a county and city chamber of commerce, a joint chamber of commerce. She's been the editor and designer of a county-wide newspaper and also the editor of a local newspaper. In doing the interviews and going through all of the interviews, which we had a great pool of applicants, and it was very difficult to find the right one. But in talking with Megan, it became very clear that she's a social media maven. She came with ideas about what we needed to do. She's a storyteller. She loves to write stories. One of the things that you've heard me say in the past, cities in general, and we're just as guilty of it, we don't do a good job of telling our story. We fix a project, we do something, and we move on to the next project, and we don't go back and really tell the success stories that we have, whether it be fixing a pothole or Steve Gorsuch doing a $31 million water treatment plant expansion. We move on to the next project. So I'm excited that Megan's here. I know staff is excited that she's here. But anyway, I wanted to introduce Megan to all of you. You'll be getting emails from her from time to time. So Megan, thank you for being here. And you're welcome to say anything if you want. Tell us
Come
a
on
story.
down.
She's a
Tell us a story.
storyteller.
Tell us your story.
So once upon a time, I chose Arkansas over Texas. But my name is Megan, and I'm so excited to be here in Siloam Springs. I've wanted to move here for the past 6 years. I have a sister that lives in Garfield and another sister that lives in Bentonville, and just to be a part of such a vibrant small town filled with great outdoors and so many marvelous people. The kindest people live here in Siloam Springs, and I'm so excited to be a part of the organization and to be able to tell y'all stories. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words.
And before I go into my director's report, if you will indulge me for just another minute or two, every time we have board members going off the board, I want to try to say a few words about them going off. And Director Sappington, Ward 3, you're a lifelong resident of Siloam Springs. You love Siloam Springs, and it's clear in everything you do and everything you say. And you're a retired school teacher. And sometimes that comes out in a board meeting, that you're a retired school teacher. You were elected in 2017 to a 4-year term. It's been our pleasure to work with you. You've been a supporter for improving the city through the various services that the city provides. And you've been a supporter of increased minimum standards. And one of those standards at the last board meeting of the year, if you will indulge me, is to dress appropriately. I hope this raises the minimum standard for you.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. With peace, it's good.
Stand to approve. I will admit for the audience, Director Sappington gave this to me 3 years ago, I think, and so I've worn it at every board meeting. I will try to wear it in the future, but I make no promises, okay?
Okay. You can return it to the Manna Center as a donation.
There you go. I'll be happy to do that. Tomorrow it will be there. Your support of raising minimum standards, your support of trying to make the city a better place is greatly appreciated, not only by myself, but by staff. And we're going to miss you, and we thank you for your time and your efforts and your questions at board meetings. And I just want to say that from my heart and from the heart of all staff. We've really appreciated your work here in the last 4 years. Thank you. And Director Burns, retired firefighter, elected.
Right, enough said.
Elected in 2013 to a 4-year term, re-elected in 2017 to a 4-year term. You're probably the biggest supporter this city has for outdoor recreation opportunities and quality of life. And you've never strayed from that support. And that's come out in every board meeting for the last 8 years, and that's greatly appreciated too. You've stayed on that point, and you've driven it home, even when you were the lone single vote on an item. And I remember in 2015, you made a comment when you were you were a no vote or a yes vote, and everybody else voted in the opposite. You made a comment that you wouldn't take it personal. Being the only vote on an issue, the lone vote, you wouldn't take it personal. That every one of the board members was still your friend, you respected them, and you even offered to buy them a beer. I don't know if anybody took you up on it.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. But you didn't take it personal. And I think that shows something, that when a board can do that and when board members can do that, you're all working together. You're all here for the same purpose. You're all here to better the city. And you have different views and different ideas about how to do it at times, but you always seem willing to work together to do that. And for that, I commend you. I'll be honest, I haven't always figured out sometimes what you're talking about. It's been a little difficult to follow, but you were always on point. And so I really commend you for that. Thank you for your 8 years of service. And you've made a difference. Marla, you've made a difference in your time on the board and staff. And I personally thank both of you. Thank you. And now on to the more mundane items on my report. Expenditures, $43,200 in the water department for 600 tons of Class 7 base rock and 1,500 tons of 67 stone. Don't ask me exactly what that means, but it's base stuff for extending a water line down Waukesha Road and for the base material and the packing material in that ditch. $47,500 in the streets division, again for Class 7 road base, 1,500 tons and 1,000 tons of stone for the Villa View widening project. $40,261.95 in sanitation for replacement of a sidearm assembly on a residential trash truck. Insurance reimbursed us for that expense, actually reimbursed us a little bit more than that expense. Under Resolution 6121, $58,848 for AMI meters in the electric department for inventory and new customers. Director Allen, you had asked me when we adopted the budget about future amendments. Again, I told you at the last board meeting that I was thinking, when I said I'm not aware of any, I was thinking about things that we didn't get in the budget. At the last board meeting, I reported purchases that have occurred in 2022, but deliveries are not expected until 2023, which will mean these items and the expense will have to be budgeted for in 2023. Fuel farm upgrades, pumps and fittings ordered in July. We expect them to be delivered in January or February, $52,161.91. The water booster station over by the airport, new pumps are ordered in February. We hope they come in, and expected delivery in January of this year, $3,600. Water plant valve actuator ordered in November. We're expecting it to be in January for $6,900. Simmons lift station improvements, pumps, controls, and rails ordered in November. We're expecting them in February, $31,706. Villa View widening, we ordered 18-inch stormwater pipe. It came in as 24-inch. We can't use that. The 18-inch is expected delivery in January. In the electric Moss substation upgrade, additional switches ordered in July. We expect them in June of next year, $14,000. And the traffic signal detection upgrades, we've been upgrading the cameras on 412 to be thermal imagery based. That project is partially completed, but some of the remaining equipment is in inventory. However, additional equipment is ordered in July, and we expect that delivery in January and February at $78,000. For the sales tax receipts for the city for November, we're up 10.6%. For year to date, we're up just over 9%. So we're seeing positive growth in sales tax. For the county, for the amount that we get back from the county for the month, we're down just barely over 6%. But for the year to date, we're up 2.67%. We just recently closed on Saturday, I believe it was, Renee, the city auction. As many bad things came out of the pandemic and issues that we had to deal with. One of the positives of the pandemic is we went to an online auction. And in that online auction, when we sell old police cars, let me back up. When we had a live auction, face-to-face, we would sell old police cars. Sometimes we might get $1,000. Most of the time we probably got $300 to $500. The online auction, we got $3,500, I believe it was, Renee, for a police car.
Yeah, 96 Crown Vic.
Yeah. In total, in that online auction, we got $110,671. There were 146 lots. I don't remember how many vendors. Do you remember how many people? It's made a huge difference. And so with the last 2 or 3 years, we've done these online auctions, and it's a really big deal because people from all over the United States are bidding on items here in Siloam Springs. So, Renee, congratulations and thank you for doing that the first year in the pandemic. The police department recently had their Cops and Kids shopping. They raised $9,000, and this past Thursday they provided Christmas shopping experiences for 28 children from 10 different families. Some of the staff in HR participated with the police, and it's always an amazing experience to help those small kids find not only what they want for Christmas, but it's heart-wrenching because a lot of those kids, $300 some odd each, I think it was, they spent half or more of that on things for their family like food. And that's just a wonderful thing, and thank you to the PD for doing that. And then lastly, well, I'm sorry, not lastly, but moving on, we had Dale Bennett here not too long ago for his, I can't remember, 40 some odd years working for the city. Dale Bennett was awarded at the Northwest Arkansas District of the American Water Works and Water Environment Association, the Water Plant Operator of the Year. So not only do we have the Fire Chief of the Year here in Siloam Springs, we have the Water Plant Operator of the Year here in Siloam Springs. So congratulations to Dale Bennett for that. And I'm trying to keep this short, but I've got more things to say. You decided to keep your PSAP operational and not consolidate. And part of that agreement, working out with Benton County, was to enter into an agreement, and you passed a resolution authorizing me to enter into an agreement with Benton County so that we could retain the funds, and Benton County would reimburse us those funds that we normally get from the state. That agreement was executed today between Siloam Springs and Benton County, so that's moving forward. Every year at this time, I also want to just put into the record some data points of things that you and the public aren't necessarily aware of what staff does. And I'll try to run through this quickly, but I think it's important for everybody to hear it. In the police department, their crime clearance rate through November is 88.7%. Last year was 88%. The national average is still 32% for all crimes. Their drug seizures decreased by about 12% to 4,700 this year compared to 5,400 in 2021. The street crime units made 59 arrests, seized approximately 13 ounces of marijuana compared to 20 last year, 32 ounces of methamphetamine compared to 26 last year, 3 ounces of psychedelic mushrooms, along with 7 firearms, 1 vehicle, and $9,400 of cash. The total number of traffic stops increased by 49% from 3,598 compared to 2,399 last year. Speeding violations increased by 26% to 602 compared to 476 last year. So through your efforts of increasing staffing at the police department, they are making a difference on traffic, and those motorcycles that we purchased are making a difference in that area also. They provided funeral escorts to 81 funerals. They worked 14 special events and provided and installed 20 car seats based on grants that were provided to the police department. They answered over 18,000 calls for service, and the SROs worked 105 school events. They made 44 speaking presentations to classes on topics such as drugs and alcohol and crime prevention. In the fire department, they responded to a total of 3,271 emergency incidents. The majority of those were EMS. 2,562 EMS incidents, and for fire and rescue, 709. That's up 3% from last year. In the fire incidents, 99% of the buildings and contents were saved, representing $76 million of value in building and contents saved. Response time in the city has decreased by 3% to 4 minutes and 8 seconds from the time of call to arrival on the scene. All of the firefighters in the fire department participated in 26,853 hours of training. That's huge. Congratulations. And they received 2 grants from the department. It's just a minor thing. They received 2 grants from the Department of Homeland Security, totaling over $1.2 million, and part of that is to add 6 new firefighters. So congratulations. In the electric department, city crews installed over 200 new permanent power services to 306 new customers. They repaired over 350 street light and security lights. They installed over 1,300 AMI electric meters. We now have almost 3,500 AMI electric meters currently in use. and we provide power to 8,938 customers. And the electric department does a great job of keeping the lights on, right? They win the awards every year for 99.99% of continuing power. We do have outages, but those guys get out there as quickly as they can and get the power restored. In the Public Works Department, water and wastewater services, we installed over 54,000 linear feet of water lines in 2022, which increases our total miles of water lines in the city that are owned and maintained by the city to 202 miles. On the wastewater side, we installed 29,000 linear feet of wastewater lines and increasing our total miles of city-owned and maintained wastewater lines to 122 that we maintain. 210 new water customers were added. City maintenance, our shop processed over 930 work orders on equipment and vehicles. Sanitation delivered almost 34,400 tons of trash to the landfill at a cost of $1.05 million in tipping fees. But we took over 800 tons of recycled material and diverted it from the landfill, saving just over $25,000 in tipping fees. We need to do more on recycling. We finished in the streets, we finished Simon Sager Drive extension. That started in 2015. That road is now open, connecting Highway 412 to Tahlequah. We completed the Villa View Road rebuild project from Sycamore Heights to the state line. We upgraded the culverts in Corder Road from Waukesha to Lincoln Street. We laid new asphalt at the water treatment plant for the driveway and the parking. The Brentwood drainage project continues. I will tell you that I think it's something that we may have to consider in 2023 to put that out to contract and finish that project, because it's taking much longer than anybody anticipated. We cleaned ditches, we cleaned detention ponds throughout the city as part of our drainage maintenance plan. We responded to over 300 service requests ranging from potholes, traffic sign maintenance, cleaning and clearing of drainage structures, and right-of-way maintenance. The water treatment plant processed almost 1.34 billion gallons of water this year. And the $31 million water treatment plant expansion was completed, which is huge for this city because that gives us capacity for the next 20 to 25 years easily. On the wastewater treatment plant, we discharged 1.2 billion gallons of water into Sager Creek that was treated wastewater. We used approximately 103 million gallons of non-potable water for the processing in the wastewater treatment plant in the reuse water system. Historically, before that, we were using potable water and paying the city for it. We're saving lots of money in the wastewater treatment plant by using that non-potable water in that system. In community development, dwelling units are up. We permitted greater than 14% compared to last year. Last year was 350 dwelling units permitted. This year was 399. Engineering division provided design and construction administration for over $200,000 of in-house projects and over $3.5 million in construction projects and contractor projects. Property maintenance code complaints are down 75% from 1,700 to only 433, so we're making difference there. In the library, our patrons are up by 2% from 14,600 to 14,900. At the airport, we provided almost 500 full-service transactions compared to 277 transactions last year, and those are transactions purchasing fuel. The self-service pumps received 1,169 transactions compared to 945 last year. So we're selling more fuel at the airport than we ever have. In gallons of fuel sold, we sold over 182,000 gallons compared to 126,000 gallons last year. The animal shelter took in 810 animals compared to 708 last year, and adoptions are up to 151 compared to 145. Parks and Rec, we had 69 runners in the dogwood race, 59 participants in the kids fishing derby, 263 participants in the dive-in movie, 20 artists in the Chalk It Up contest, and 65 runners in the turkey trot. All those are up because of pandemic numbers in the past. I'm almost done. In Human Resources started a safety team. We talked about that at one time. They inspected every city facility, every park, and any other city structure for safety issues. They wrote up a list of safety issues that they found, and every department responded by making improvements and making changes to improve the safety of those facilities. They conducted 309 interviews for jobs. They went through 69 new hire orientations. They also processed 22 property loss claims. Property loss claims are either damage to city property, or if one of our mowers throws a rocks and hits a resident's car and cracks the windshield, that's a damage loss claim that we process. On the positive, even more positive side, 131 employees reached their wellness points goals. We need more employees to participate in that. The Biggest Loser contest saw 205 pounds from 123 employees that participated. They lost 205 pounds total. In the Walktober, 54 employees participated, and they walked 7,792,000 steps, or basically 3,600 miles, the equivalent to walking to Hawaii from Siloam Springs. In the IT division, they responded to 2,300 tickets for services. They conducted a vulnerability assessment for city networks and systems and fixed any vulnerabilities that were within their purview. They established a monthly tips and tricks email to all of city staff relating to cybersecurity and daily computing needs. We go through a process on a regular basis of taking tests to make sure that we don't open suspicious emails, that we don't send money out to Director Carroll, who is in Hawaii, asking for money or something along those lines. They worked with utility billing to set up a self-service kiosk that's right outside this room to allow citizens to pay their bill electronically rather than waiting at the UB window if they have the ability to do that. In the utility billing, they bill and process over 11,000 utility bills and late notices every month. Those three ladies in utility billing do that every single month. We have 267 full-time employees and 20 part-time employees. This is the third city I've worked in my tenure, and I believe the group of employees that we have, that you have working for the city, is the best group that I have ever worked with. They're dedicated, they work hard, they try to do the job right, they try to do the right thing. Do they and I make mistakes? Yes, we do. But I have never worked with a more dedicated group of employees in my entire life. And I thank them for their dedication to the city. I thank them for their dedication to you as a board, because they want to make you look good. They want to make the city look good, and they do a good job of it. This city is a great city, and it's because of you, and it's because of the employees, and it's because of the residents that are in this room and that are not in this room. Mr. Vice Mayor, that is my report. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Tonight, we're going to let Director Sappington start us off on her farewell piece. And Director Burns, we're going to let you anchor this thing away.
How many minutes do I have?
Set the timer, don't
You
worry.
set the timer. It has been my pleasure to serve on the City Board of Directors. When I first ran, I was timid and not understanding all of the rules and regulations that went on within the city, but I was schooled quickly. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. And I learned to love what went on in this room. My family around this table is like a family to me because I've spent 2 nights a month with them for the last 4 years. And we argue, we disagree over armadillos in the road and other things, but you know, what it boils down to is I love my town. And I love that you love my town. And as long as we can agree to love the town, I don't care how we get there. We're going to get at the same place. I was blessed to be born in this town. And many of you will be here long after I'm gone. And I know that you have the same love of the town and you will continue to see that it grows in the right direction. And I really appreciate that. I was going to go around the room and tell each one of the staff that I really appreciate them, but I couldn't think of anything nice for Steve other than I like his wife, but you know, so, but no, I mean, you can you can ask Ben. I don't know if Ben's still here, but Ben was my neighbor when he first moved to town, and I asked him more questions, and he would probably think, where is she going with this question? Well, I really didn't know once I got done because he was so confused, and then I was so confused. It's like, where are we going? So, but no, I love the ability to be able to speak my voice and to speak your voice and to have had the opportunity to do that. I've loved working with staff. Philip's always been just quick to solve problems for me. I'm the kind of director that if someone came to me, well, I just go straight to the top. And I said, take care of this. And he always did. And so I'm not taking your phone number out of my phone, okay? So, and you can keep the jacket.
Thank you.
But as you know, my eyesight is going, and it was the best thing for me that I did not win the election, and it was hard. But I know that I will be listening, and I'm not far away, and I have the Manna Center is keeping me so busy right now that if I had to choose between the city and the Manna Center, right now I'd have to choose the Manna Center because what's out there is devastating. I'm spending over $8,000 a month on food, and that's not what I get free from salvage and recovery. So there's a great need, and that is a true love of mine, is to see that our citizens are helped. And again, I just thank you for letting me be part of this family for 4 years. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Director Ressler.
Philip mentioned the maintenance department. As a director, one of the things I do is I do not keep the money I make as a director. I give it back to the community and I give it back to the citizens. This year, I met with every department before the last meeting. This time, the only department I had left was the maintenance department because I had an emergency with my mother-in-law, so I had to reschedule. And I think a lot of people don't realize, I used to work for the city, and so I do know what the maintenance department does, but Philip said they did 930 work orders. People think that they only change oil or work on tires. No, they fix everything. If you have a lawnmower issue, guess where it goes. If you have a weed eater issue, guess where it goes. So I appreciate our maintenance department, and I hope everybody understands the value that they add to this city and everything that they do for this city. It's not just changing a tire or changing the oil. They do a lot of work. So when we have discussions about them, I hope everybody understands what they do for our city. Recently, my husband and I, we own multiple homes in Oklahoma and Arkansas, and we went through the process of, and I made staff aware that I'm going to have this conversation. We went through the process of getting an Airbnb, making one of our homes an Airbnb. And this is very serious to us because we don't want to bring in people that could risk the community, risk their neighbors or anything like that. But the process seemed to be, I had a lot of complaints from people that have other Airbnbs in town. And they said the process is very long. So I was lucky enough that I got to go through the process and see what was so long about it. But it takes almost 3 months to become an Airbnb, and it's just a special use permit. It's nothing special. It's not rezoning. It's not, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's a process. For example, we went to the Planning Commission. They voted it, and I was surprised that it wasn't on the next agenda, but it was on the next agenda, which drug it out for another, 2.5 weeks. And so I see where the developers and I see where the owners of these Airbnbs are getting frustrated with some of the processes. And I was going to see if we can look at cutting down some of the processes. If it's just a special use, it shouldn't require as much as a lot split or, building permits, or I don't even know if you can do that, but if we could look at that and see if our processes can be.
If I may, we'll be happy to come back with some recommendations. We discussed it in 2019, I believe it was, where you would give the Planning Commission more autonomy. And at that time, I don't think the board wasn't interested in giving the Planning Commission the final say. I know some cities in Northwest Arkansas do that. I'd have to go back and look to see about any appeal or any appeal process by the public or by the board, because you may decide to give the Planning Commission total autonomy and any appeals go to court, or appeal comes to this board, or you may want to call it up. But we'll be happy to take a look at that again. If you do it, it'll be for all special uses, and there may be some things you want to be aware of for that, unless we can carve out some other thing, but we'll be happy to look at it.
Okay, or even cutting the time, because I know there's a chart. So they give you this chart and they say, okay, here's your time frame. And it just seems like there's some things that could have moved forward a little quicker than, you know what I'm talking about. When you look at that chart and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, why couldn't we put this on this agenda? And so I just wonder if we could look at that, because that has been a frustration since we have allowed Airbnbs in Siloam, that the process is so long. And so.
I don't know that, another thing on Airbnbs, if I may, that will likely come before you in the first quarter of next year will be a limit on the number. For your consideration, and the numbers can be somewhat arbitrary, but cities are beginning to limit the number of Airbnbs because it does take some houses off the market for full-time residents. So we're looking into that. So that may supersede any process, but we'll be happy to look at both, yes.
So we can, though, have an Airbnb and a long-term rental in the same residence, could we not?
Yes.
So if we wanted to do a long-term, we still could. The Airbnb is just a special saying, oh, okay, you can do this.
Right.
Okay.
But anyway, we'll be happy to look at it and
Okay.
bring it back, yeah.
Okay. And Marla and Brad, I will miss you. I know we've had disagreements. I don't care. I still respect you guys, and I still love you guys, and I love having discussion. I like for the citizens to hear, even when we disagree, because it brings more things out. And so I am going to miss you guys. So I wish you guys the best. And I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Director Smiley.
I wanted to welcome Megan to our staff, and I wanted to thank Cindy Rooney for her service. I was on the board when she started, and so I really appreciate all that she's done for us, and I hope she has a very good retirement. I'm glad to see the Lake Francis rebuild. I travel that road a lot, so I'm glad to see that coming about. I want to thank everybody that came in support of downtown Main Street. It's always good to see our citizens interacting and letting us know what they feel for our community, and I appreciate that very much. And I also want to thank Martha Lonigan for coming and speaking. Brad, Marla, it's been a pleasure to work with you. You both have done a great service for our community, and I know you're still going to be community involved. Brad can't help it, you can't help it. So I know with your Manna Center, you're still going to be involved. One thing that came to my attention this weekend, I went out to my mailbox and I looked next door, and there's the big fire truck sitting next door at my neighbor's house. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is somebody on fire? And I could smell smoke. Well, all of a sudden, one of the firemen came out of the house, and I said, well, is everything okay? And he says, oh, we're just changing some smoke detectors. So I just want everybody to know that there are some things, if you aren't able to do your smoke detectors, that our fire department is available to do that for you. There's a lot of other things that they can help us with. So I appreciate that very much. And I do wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. It's been a delight to serve with you this year, and I hope everybody has a great new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I want to congratulate Cindy Rooney also for her many years of service. It's not often you see someone have that many years and still walk away with a smile after enjoying a job for decades, and that's amazing. And I think she was always a huge team player and a big supporter for the city, and I've really enjoyed meeting her over the year, talking to her over the years. She's been a great employee, and I hate to see her leave. I want to congratulate you, Megan. I have to say, our administrator's been bragging about you from the minute he read your application. Now, haven't you?
Yes.
You're not going to believe this young lady. You're not going to. So he really was excited that you had applied, and he was excited whenever you took the job. So congratulations to you. And I know at least from what Philip said that you got a lot that you're going to bring to the city, and I appreciate that a lot. Marla, honey, your dedication to the homeless and needy in Siloam is inspiring. I don't think they have a bigger supporter. And if Philip does turn in the jacket, you call me because I want to buy it. I love it.
Maybe an online auction, Renee.
Yeah. Brad, you always made us laugh. I mean, I hoot and hollered at almost every meeting at some of the stuff. Now, yeah, like Philip said, sometimes I didn't know what the heck you were saying, but it was fun to listen to. And so it was, and I know there was the rare occasion we agreed and we celebrated afterwards, but I think the laughs were the biggest, and your love of the city, both of you, is inspiring. I want to be thankful to our Chamber of Commerce for picking up the Holly Jolly Decorate the Home contest. They had that going within 12 hours, and they put a lot of work into it, and I think they said they've got 25 entries. So it's really going well, and I was really pleased and proud of that. Philip, great news on the PSAP signature. I mean, I know that was one of your biggest headaches, but it was also one of your biggest accomplishments this year. And you really went to bat for the city, and I know it was a long fight to deal with the state and with the local situation with the other cities, but I congratulate you on getting that signed on, well, I guess today. Congrats to Dale Bennett for his award, the Water Plant Operator of the Year. I would like to see in the future, our director-elects be more included in emails and info as they were in 2018 and 20, and I speak from experience with those 2 years. I just wish that they were getting on the emails that we were getting because they are coming on the board. I am concerned the city survey that we paid for, I understood there was only going to be 400, and yet it was an ad on Facebook. I mean, it was an ad inviting anyone to, now you had to give your address, but that pretty well made it seem to me like this is not exactly statistically valid like we were promised. And so I question if we really, you know, got what we paid for with ETC. And I heard of people getting more than one, you know, when they have two addresses and things like that. So that's something I hope you can question, Philip. Yeah, just get with that company. And
I had a conversation with them, and they're able to keep those separate. They will likely have a separate results of anecdotal information and keep the 400 that are statistically valid separate from that anecdotal information.
Because all I could see was the 400 getting mixed in with everybody that did an online survey, and it's like, how do you know that?
And I was asked about the Facebook side, and my understanding is they were able to take the addresses and do some sort of process in Facebook where those things showed up on Facebook pages that people who got the survey. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but that's what they told me. But they'll do a presentation, and you're welcome to ask those questions when we get those results.
I just was surprised to see it as an ad.
I was surprised to hear about it,
because I think if it's just on the Facebook, I mean, the city Facebook page, that's one thing, but to be an ad on Facebook, it was just kind of surprising, eye-opening, I guess you could say. I don't think anything else. But again, congrats, Megan. And I mean, the biggest thing I wrote down, we provide power to over 8,000 customers. That's huge. I mean, out of everything you gave us, it's like that is a real eye opener right there, that we provide power to 8,000 customers. And that's businesses, homes, everything, but it's 8,000 customers. That's a huge effort that the city puts out. So anyway, happy Christmas and Merry New Year. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Allen. Director Hunt.
Well, I really wish I had brought one of my 3-page typed out director's reports for your last meeting. I'll try to stretch out my half page here.
I have the timer set.
Because I know you always appreciate my reports. Okay, Philip, I would be remiss if I didn't mention your tie. We all got a little scolded last time because we hadn't said anything about your tie yet. Only Director Carroll did. So I'm going to be the first tonight to say, great tie. Not sure it really matches with the rest of it, but it's okay. It's seasonal. Okay. Thank you also for that report on the data points, but especially thank you to the staff behind who provided the data points, not just the provision, but just there are so many staff involved in creating that data that you provided, and I appreciate all that they do. Congratulations to Dale Bennett for his award. Congratulations on Cindy Rooney's retirement, and thank you for a job well done for 21 years. Welcome, Megan. Let's see, thank you, Chamber, for taking the ball and running with it with the holiday contest. And then thank you for all of you who attended tonight, and to those who expressed their opinions and concerns through email, text, calls. I had several myself, and I just really appreciated the input that we received on this issue and every issue. We all do have the same goal in mind. We want to work for and behalf of the citizens of Siloam to make Siloam just the very best it can be. Directors Burns and Sappington have been great examples of just really putting their passion for the city to work for the citizens and on behalf of the citizens. So thank you for the work that you've done. We will try to continue carrying some of the torches, probably not quite as well as you have, but we will try. And I look forward to bringing on new board members and working with you all. I know you have the same passion or you wouldn't have run yourselves. Merry Christmas, and I just want to remind everybody of the true reason for the season, and that is Jesus Christ himself. And I just pray his blessings on you all and on this town.
Mr. Vice Mayor, before we adjourn, I had one other thing in relation to I read recently a museum in Virginia had removed Christmas from their celebration and changed it to Winter Festival. There's no doubt there's a war on the word Christmas around. I had offices in LA that employed people of the Jewish faith, of the Hindu faith, the Muslim faith. They all enjoyed celebrating Christmas. So I'm just encouraging people, please stand up for the Christmas holiday. Every faith I've been around loves to celebrate at Christmas time. And then I also wanted to thank Showray, who came and said, thank God for the blessings of our town and that we're here to glorify God. And thank you, Showray, for always reminding us of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Director Burns.
Yes. Well, I saw Scott Jones tonight, and I'm glad he's back. And there was an AML program when he was a board of directors, and it was called Sister Cities. And I mentioned that to Dawn, and that might be something we might want to look at going in the future. And then Steve Beers, when he was on the board, I think he had the Tree City. And I don't think we ever followed through with Tree City, and it's another AML program. And so I don't want to forget those board members that have gone and those two programs that they had. And I'm going to make it real short and sweet. So I wrote it down. To the citizens of Siloam, thank you for allowing me to serve you as Ward 2. Grateful for those who supported me in 2014. We had quite a few folks, and I had some numerical value. So in a warehouse, there's lots of Brad Burns signs. If you would like them for target practice, get a hold of me. And thanks those that encouraging phone calls I received. I did not want to run for a third term. I've made my contribution to the city of Siloam Springs. We are in a good place. And I, altogether at the firehouse in here, it's 32 years of Siloam Springs, and I will not watch your board meetings. If you see me in public, I do not know, starting tonight, except for Sager Creek. I will reappear for Sager Creek. I believe that committee and that project, this board and those coming on, we can all agree that's going to happen. I believe in the three legs of service, and it's God, country, and community. And so for Siloam Springs, numerous citizens would have a long service record that right in this community. And my journey is no different as a firefighter and elected official serving this community. And it's been an honor. With that, I request that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
At one moment.
I have one more thing, if I may. Director Allen, since you mentioned...
No!
He did, he wanted it.
And you can wear it reversible too. Look at this beautiful lime green inside.
That'll be
Thank
for Easter.
Patrick's.
Great looking jacket.
All right, Director Burns, I will take your motion to adjourn. And we had a second. Who seconded?
David.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.